Hello, my name is Beth Dixon, and I run the Math Lab here in MBS 222. And this is a podcast designed to supplement your teacher's lecture. It is not meant to replace your teacher's lecture. As always, classroom attendance is vital to classroom success. And let's start. This podcast is on percent problems using proportions. And I sound out of breath, so excuse me. And let's start with the percent problem. What percent of 28 is 7? And as we look at this, sorry, my door was open. What percent of 28 is 7? This is the type of percent problems we're going to be solving. The simple word sentence that's asking a question. I solve these using a proportion, and as I solve these using a proportion, the first thing I want to look at is the percent. And the percent I'm going to express over 100. So when I start out with two fractions equal to each other, and I'm going to look for the percent first. In this case, it says what percent. So I know that that will be my x. So I'm going to put an x here. Then I'm going to look for two other parts that will make up the other fraction. And this will be the part over the whole. So that I always have the percent over 100 equals the part over the whole. And I didn't get color coordinated here, but that's the part, and excuse me, and this is the whole, not hote, over the whole. I spelled it right over here. The part over the whole. Now, how do I find the part and the whole? Well, as I look at this, what percent of the 28 is the 7? As I look at this, our English language tells us that of the 28 is the whole, is the total part. And it will always follow, because of our English language, the word of. So this is the of, and this is the is. So it's also, we can say that this is of, and this. The is goes on top, the of goes on the bottom. Whatever follows the word of goes on the bottom of your fraction. So the 28 should go on bottom. The 7 should go on top. Then we have a proportion. X over 100 equals 7 over 28. We're going to then cross multiply, multiplying the x times the 28 and the 100 times the 7. That gives us 28x equals 700. And we're trying to get the x by itself. So the next step is to divide by 28. And x equals 700 divided by 28. And we could do that by hand, but there's just no need. So we're going to use our calculator and take the top number, 700, divided by 28, and that gives us 25. So x equals 25, and that would be 25 over 100, so that's 25%. Now let's do another problem. Okay, 32 is 40% of what number? Again, we want to find our percent first. It's the easiest number to find. It'll either say what percent, or in this case it says 40%. So that is 40 over 100. We express that as a fraction over 100. Then we want to look and find our part and our whole. Our whole always follows the word of. Of what? Of our total. So 32 is 40% of what? So that'll be our X. What is our part? The one that is with the is. So that's 32 is part of what? Is 40% of what? So it's 32 to X. Then we'll just cross multiply and solve. 40 times X equals 32 times 100. Then divide by 40. And X equals 3,200 divided by 40, which gives me 80. And that's the of what number? So that's our answer. And that's saying 32 is 40% of 80. And that makes a reasonable answer. Okay, let's look at the next one. What number is 18% of 180? Again, I like to start with my percent. 18%, so I'm going to write that over 100. Next, I'm going to look for my total, which always follows the word of. It goes on the bottom. And then I look for the word is. And that will be, whoops, that's supposed to be green. Try to keep my color coding the same here. And put the X. Then I'm ready to do my cross multiplying and solving. 100x equals 18 times 180, which is 3,240. Then divide by 100. And 3,240 divided by 100 is 32.4. And that's saying 32.4 is 18% of 180. And that's a reasonable answer. So we're in good shape. Let's look at another example. And I just want to work a bunch of these examples so you can see how I process these problems. Again, I look for first the percentage. 26% of 130 is what number? First thing I do is read through the problem and find the percent. Well, technically, the first thing I do is write blank over 100 equals blank. I write my two fractions first. Then I write over 100, and then I find my percentage. Then I'm looking for my total. What's my total? Well, it's of 130. Then I'm looking for my part. Is what number? Then I cross multiply whatever I have. 100x equals whatever 26 times 130 is, which is 3,380. Then divide by 100. Divide by 100. And it's 33.8. Well, 26% of 130 is about 33. That makes a reasonable answer. You know, always make sure your answer is reasonable. Okay, let's look at another example. Again, Write your fractions down to set up your problem. Something over 100 equals blank. We want to set these up as two fractions. I'm looking for my percent, and it says what percent? So I'm going to put an X. Then I'm looking for my total of what? Of the 150. So that goes down here and makes my total. Then I'm looking for my part. The 36 is my part. So now I have the part, the whole, and the percent. I'm ready to do my cross multiplying. That'd be 150x equals 36 times 100, which would be 3,600. Divide by 150. $3,600 divided by 150 gives me 24. So that's 24. And in this case, we need to put the percent sign with it because we're looking for the percent. And 24% of 150 is 36. 36 is about 24% of 150. That makes sense. Half of 150 would be about 75, and about half of that again would be about half of 75 would be about 35, 36. So that makes sense. It's a reasonable answer. Okay, let's look at this one. Again, the first thing I do is draw out the proportion. Next thing I do is look for my percent, which in this case is 15%, and that would be 15 over 100. I then look for my total of what number, so that'll be my X, is the 87. That'll go on top. Then I just cross multiply. Notice that these can be worded in a couple of different ways. They can be anywhere in the sentence depending on how it's worded. And because of that, we have to, I find that pattern of the way I look for things. It just makes life easier if I always look for things in the same order. I can actually look for them in a different order. Your teacher may look for them in a different order, but this is the order that makes sense to me so that we're always on the same page. Then I cross multiply. 15x equals 8,700. Divide by 15. 8,700 divided by 15 gives me 580. And again, it's a reasonable answer. Okay. Last one. One last practice. 25 is what percent of 5? And what percent is the X? That's my percent. Of 5, that's my total. 25 is my part. Now notice something strange is going here. My total is smaller than my part. So what percent of 25, what percent of 5 is 25? So we've grown. It's grown bigger than 5. So look what happens. We get 5x equals 2,500. Divide by 5. X equals 2,500 divided by 5, and we get 500, and that's 500%. Well, does that make sense in context? Well, I'm saying 25 is 500% of 5. Well, if I have 500% of 5, that's 5 times 5. Well, what is 5 times 5? 25. So yes, it makes sense that it's more than 100% of 5. 100% of 5 would be 5. 25 has to be more than 100% of 5. Actually, it's 5 times that. So notice that our numbers don't have to be limited to 100% here. And I've only done the one where we work with some strange numbers here. The rest of these, our numbers have been fairly normal. But the problem and the process works the same, even if the numbers began to get a little different. But I wanted to keep our numbers basically a little easier to work with so you could see the process and just work through a lot of examples here so that you'd have lots of examples to see. I hope this helps. If you need some additional practice, remember that you can always come by the Math Lab in room 222 of the Math and Behavioral Social Science building. Hope that you will come by and see us. Thank you.